having a dope bass line is the way to make your song groove. A few years back while I was studying in music college, I was playing guitar in an ensemble classroom, but something felt off. The music was not clicking. And the teacher stopped us, but he didn't look at the melodic player, he turned straight to the drummer and bass player. And he said something that changed the way I think about groove forever. A band is only as good as its bass player and drummer are together. He was right, and this applies to all genres of music. But when it comes to funk influenced music, it's everything. Hey, I'm Alex. I'm a music producer and I work with some of the biggest brands. In this video, I'm going to break down a simple step-by-step method to write funky synth bassline that actually grooves. I'll be writing one on the spot, following each of the steps, so by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to do it yourself. Let's get started. So the first step is to start with the roots of each chords on the downbeat. They're going to serve as anchor of the groove. They're going to give us the freedom to move around it and groove around it, just like this. So first we have a G, then we get an F sharp. I'm going to make that one a little shorter. Then we get a B, and then we get an E. I'm going to make that one a little shorter too. So here's what that sounds like. To create a funky feel, syncopation is key. And there is two types of syncopation. There's 8th note syncopation and 16th note syncopation. If you divide your beat in two, it's going to be 8th note syncopation. If you divide your beat in four, it's going to be 16th note syncopation. Let's listen to the difference. All right, so here we can see that the beat is divided in two, so that's going to be an 8th note syncopation. So let's see how that sounds. All right, pretty cool. Now let's divide the beat in four. And here's a 16th note syncopation. Let's see how that sounds. There's no right or wrong, it's just a different feel that we get out of each. 16th note syncopation is used a lot in funk. But we don't only want to use 16th note syncopation. We want to find a balance between 16th note and 8th note syncopation. The way we find that balance is what's going to define the groove. But it is also really important to think about space. You want to let your bass line breathe. So now that we have the roots, let's add a little bit of syncopation. So let's start with a 16th note syncopation on that one. Maybe this one, let's do a 8th note syncopation. This one, let's do a 16th note syncopation. And here we'll do another 8th note syncopation. Let's see how that sounds. Right now we're just using the roots, but it's already grooving. So let's keep going. So now how do we actually write the bass line? Well, the best way to write a good bass line is to try to connect the different roots together. And the best way to connect them together is to use the chord tones. If you don't know what chord tones is, don't worry, it's not complicated. It's just the root, the third, the fifth, and the seventh of the chord. So for these chords, here's the chord tones. So for G, we have the third, which is B. Then we have the fifth, which is D. Then we have the 7, which is F sharp. Then for F, the chord of F sharp, we're going to have the third, which is A sharp. Then we're going to have the fifth, which is C sharp. And then we're going to have the 7, which is E. And we can keep going with that, but you see the point. So now that we're trying to connect the roots using the chord tones, the most important thing to keep in mind is the syncopation. So let's try to connect some of them. So from G to F sharp, we're already half a step away, so we don't need to do anything. But here I'm just gonna shorten that note. That's gonna make it a little tighter, and that's gonna sound a little funkier. Now to get from F sharp to B, what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna go through A sharp, which is the third of F sharp, and that's gonna connect the two roots. So now for going from B to E, I'm gonna pretend like the E is an octave above, which allows me to use D, which is the third of B. And when we get to that D, our ear is already expecting to hear the E, but we're just gonna get it an octave lower. That still works. And then from E to G, I'm just gonna use the F sharp, which technically that's not a chord tone of E, but that basically serves as a passing note to get back to G, which works great. So let's see how that sounds. All right, so this is pretty cool. We're using the same groove as before. We just have a little bit more motion because we're using more notes. So now that we've connected the roots, let's talk about octave jumps. Octave jumps are one of the most classic patterns in funk and disco music. So on the G chord, I'm not actually going to do an octave jump, but I'm going to do one on the F sharp chord. So I'm going to put an F sharp here and another F sharp here. And I'm going to put that one an octave. So you see, I'm just jumping from that F sharp to that F sharp. And like you can see, I like using 16-note syncopation for octave jumps. And actually this F sharp, I'm going to make it a little longer so it falls into that A sharp right here. Then here, I'm not going to do an octave jump on the B, but I'm just going to connect the B and the D a little better. So I'm going to put a B here and then a C sharp here. The C sharp is not a chord tone of B, but it's going to connect them. Now for the E, I think we can do an octave jump to go back to that G over here. So that F sharp, I'm going to make it jump. So I'm going to put another F sharp here and I'm going to put that one an octave above. And to connect the E and the F sharp a little better, I'm just going to put an E here that goes into that F sharp. So let's see how that sounds. This sounds pretty cool, but there's still one more step that we can do to make it even cooler. So now that we have our bass line, there's still a few more things that we can do to make it even cooler. Because we're talking about a synth bass, we're not talking about an actual bass. So we can do pitch bends, we can do filter automation, vibrato, and a bunch of cool stuff like that. Let me show you. Now let's do some automation. The first one that I'm going to do is the pitch bend, which is my favorite when it comes to funky bass line on the synth. So we're just going to add a pitch bend on that note and another one on that note. And just to make it clear, this pitch bend is going to go a whole octave down, so like 12 semitones. And the second thing that I want to automate is the mod wheel. Basically, the mod wheel in that synth, it's mapped to the filter opening and the vibrato. So when the mod wheel is going up like that, it's going to make the note a little brighter and have a stronger vibrato. I'm just going to automate that one. And I'm going to automate that one too. And maybe actually even that one. It's just going to create a little emphasis on these notes. So now with the pitch bend and the mod wheel opening, let's see how that sounds. Pretty cool, right? The mod wheel is pretty subtle, but it does make a big difference in the track. But the pitch bend, that's the real sauce. That's what makes it really funky. If you'd like to have me produce your next track, or if you want my help to become a better producer, don't hesitate to reach out directly to me or to click the link in the description. Writing dub bass line is the foundation of a great track. But if you don't know how to arrange your songs properly, you will never reach its full potential. So click on this video next if you want to learn the 3 golden rules of arrangement that are totally going to change the way you make music.